there. Thank you so much for joining us today for our panel discussion. As you can see, I've got a great panel for you today. I am with Dr. Kristine Pass and Susan Jarboe, very esteemed dear friends of mine. And I've also got the topic today, but before we get to that, let's just get here, right now, with a moment of prayer. I invite you to let go of whatever it is you've got on your mind, on your consciousness, and really focus on being right here, right now. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and let's take a breath together and turn within. God, we give thanks for this opportunity to stop and remember our divine origins, our truth in universal consciousness and love. Please, Lord, help us to focus on what is truly our highest and best good, and to bring that into the public through our video. Thank you, God. Amen. Before we get started, I would also like to thank Unity Church of El Cajon, our sponsor, for allowing us to bring these videos to you. Okay, so I've got the topic. Here we go. I invite you to step back in time with me. Let's see if I can get this book to show. No, I can't. The book is Wherever You Go, There You Are. Mindfulness Meditation in Everyday Life by Jon Kabat-Zinn. Okay, and we're reading Sitting by Fire. So bear with me and I'll read this for us. It's not very long. In the old days, once the sun went down, the only source of light people had, other than the changing moon and the figment of stars, was fire. For millions of years, we human beings sat around fire, gazing into the flames and the embers with cold and darkness at our backs. Maybe this is where the first formal meditation got its start. Fire was a comfort to us, our source of heat, light, and protection. Dangerous, but with great care, controllable. Sitting by it gave us relaxation at the end of the day. In its warm, flickering light, we could tell stories and talk about the day past, or just sit silently, seeing the reflection of our minds in the ever-changing flames and the growing landscapes of a magical world. Fire made the darkness bearable and helped us feel secure and safe. It was calming, reliable, restorative, meditative, and absolutely necessary for our very survival. The necessity has flown from our everyday lives, and with it almost all occasion to be still. In today's fast-paced world, fires are impractical or an occasional luxury to set a certain mood. We have only to flip a switch when the outer light begins to dim. We can light up the world as brightly as we want and keep going with our lives, filling all our waking hours with busyness and doing. Life gives us scant time for being nowadays, unless we seize on it as our purpose. We no longer have a fixed time when we have to stop what we are doing because there's not enough light to do it by. We lack that formally built-in time we had every night for shifting gears, for letting go of the day's activities. We have precious few occasions nowadays for the mind to settle itself into stillness by a fire. It turns out we don't have to succumb to the addictive appeals of the external absorptions in an entertainment and passionate, distracted world. we can develop other habits that bring us back to this elemental yearning inside ourselves for warmth, stillness, and inner peace. When we sit with our breathing, for instance, it is much like sitting by fire. Looking deeply into the breath, we can see at least as much as in glowing coals and embers in the flames. A certain warmth is generated too. And if we are truly not trying to get anywhere, but simply allow ourselves to be here in this moment as it is, we can stumble easily upon an ancient stillness behind and within the play of our thoughts and feelings. And in that simpler time, that people found in sitting by fire. Okay, I really loved this. I loved the idea of meditating with fire. I often meditate with a candle, but as he was talking about how rare fire is, I was reminded of the Christmas Yule log that you can turn on the TV and have a picture of fire going with you. So that's what I have, and I'm hoping our panel will tell us about their interactions with fire and, better still, meditation. Would either of you like to share?
Thank you, Reverend Linda, for beautiful images of people sitting around a fire. And of course, you are right about how those days are long gone. Once upon a time, people heated their houses with fire, and that is seldom the case anymore. I was thinking as you were speaking how interactions around the fire uh, might not have only contributed to meditative practices, but also to other things like specific conversations, uh, perhaps even music, singing together, and that fire was a socializing process, not just a way to keep warm and eat food, but rather it spurred us as human beings to relate to each other in new and different ways. We know, as you commented, that those days are long gone. And technology, of course, has changed the way we relate. Once upon a time, people used to sit on their front porches and watch the world and neighbors go by. Then they moved inside to listen to the radio and later the television. At least people could gather around those things as a family until, of course, teenagers had a television in their own rooms. Now, of course, we read much about cell phones and other technological devices that are so isolating. It seems as though we have fewer and fewer opportunities to interact with others. And that is why odd little things are so important, like perhaps walking into a bank to get some money rather than using an ATM machine. I think that today's people need to seek out opportunities to interact with others. And as far as meditation goes, I've mentioned this in some of our discussions. I belong to a group, Contemplative Outreach, um, the San Diego branch. And sometimes when we are sitting in a circle, we will have a candle in front of us. I remember, however, a non-participant walking by said, "Oh, there they are in their seance," which we all laughed at. Uh, and that spoke to that person's ignorance rather than to anything we were doing. So, yes, we try to bring fire back into our lives, as you said, with a television program, or even gas logs, sort of fake fireplaces, are ways that we seek to retrieve this ancient practice. So, thank you, Linda, for telling us about fire and reminding us about the role of fire in human history.
Reverend Linda, this was a fun topic. And Susan, you brought up so many vivid images for me. The singing together brought me back to when I was in choir and the joy and the camaraderie that came from that. But then you talked about sitting on the porch, and I was transported in time to when I would sit on the front porch with my grandmother, who had sat on that very same porch with her grandfather, and we would watch the rain, and it was so loving, so present. And so, Reverend Linda, where you talked about this being a meditative experience, that's kind of where I want to go with my comment here, because I was really struck when you said it was the only source of light, and I thought, oh, what was really the only source of light for me? There were times where, as a child, where the only sense of light for me was a presence, a feeling of love that it took years to understand was mother love from within. And so I learned to go into meditation where I could find that sense of love in in the most harrowing of experiences, those times where I have faced situations and thought I can't get through this. But then there's been that embrace, that inner embrace, and it has worked so well. And all of this made me think about a new book. I just got this the other day, and well, I was fortunate to get to read a copy before it was out in print, but it is Peter Russell's book, How to Meditate Without Even Trying. And this book, if you want to find within yourself that same presence of sitting around the fire, whether it's with people or alone, this book would be one of those great guides to it. So thank you, Reverend Linda, and thank you too, Susan. It's wonderful.
Thank you both for your comments on this topic. Susan, I love that you brought in the social aspect. And I have shared before, I don't recognize a need to socialize. So I'm one of those people who could just kind of get lost and not interact with people. But I have learned that socializing, I can do without it. I can do without people, but I do so much better with it and with people. And that when I am socially connected, I'm more than I am when I'm completely apart and alone. I like the idea of going into a bank, and in our family, our weird family, we try and make a point of having the whole family, everybody within 100 miles, get together and have a meal together once a week. And the little ones, they aren't very interested, but the adults really get a chance not only to interact, but to really be heard with where they are and supported by the love of the family. It's been such a powerful, powerful tradition. And in the evenings, my partner and I make a point of taking time away from everything else in the world and just talking to each other about how our day was and enjoying things that we do well together with each other. And if we go a day without it, I really, really miss it. As far as meditation goes, I loved what you said, Kristine. You know, you really emphasized in the reading, fire was the only source. And for me, that's what meditation is, going to the source. And I make time for that every day, and I would love to make more time for that. And like I said, I often will meditate with candlelight. I like focusing on a flame. It just kind of brings me out of the world and into spirit. So thank you both. I knew this was going to be a great panel. And thank you to our audience for joining us. Please leave comments. Let us know. What do you think? Do you meditate with fire or without fire? In the part of the country I'm in, people burn everything. So there's fire going on all the time, which fire was illegal in California during the drought. So it's much different. How is it for you? We would love to know. Actually, we'd like to get to know you, not only through your comments, but please think about joining us and becoming a part of our panel discussion. You never know who it is that's going to say something that will really make a difference for someone else. But you can't be that if your voice isn't here with us. We would love to get to know you. We would love to share panels with you, whether it's just one or 101. We'd love to have you with us. Thank you for joining in today. If you aren't already a subscriber, please subscribe, and we hope you'll be back again soon. Goodbye.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.